Hello and welcome back to the Lore Raider, and the first ever response video I have done for a Tomb Raider vs. battle. The video I'm reacting to is from a channel called AxMania, and he is an amazing Tomb Raider YouTuber that I have grown to be a big fan of. But when he made a versus battle video, I knew I had to eventually make a response video to it. AxMania's video pits Lara Croft against a titan of the horror movie genre, Jason Voorhees. For my response, I will be following the criteria AxMania set up in his scenario, also giving my own opinion as a scaler. AxMania sticks to 12 main Tomb Raider games and the 12 main Friday the 13th movies, meaning I'll be sticking to those sources as well for my responses, meaning there won't be any usage of the Tomb Raider comics and no usage of the Friday the 13th comics, as well as other media. Finally, AxMania decides to rank the combatants on 7 criteria, those being strength, agility, intelligence, weapons, toughness, motivation, and experience. And as such, I shall respond to each of them in turn. So let's see, will the Lore Raider and AxMania be on the same page, or will this be more of a debunk than a response? Let's find out. So in this round, AxMania gives the point to Jason. He notes his ability to fling humans around like rag dolls, punch people's heads clean off the shoulders, among many other impressive feats, which is correct. And to offer one more, Jason threw a guy through a window and some wooden beams, as well as easily shattering a door. However, what's interesting to me is AxMania gives Lara a far superior feat right off the bat.
We are talking about someone who can push and pull solid blocks of rock here.
To give you an idea of how impressive this is, pushing the stone blocks in the Egypt levels, those blocks weigh about 27 tons, which is far more impressive than throwing around a 180-pound human is. Additionally, a far weaker Lara Croft can hold up a gate whilst drowning at a certain point in the cutscene before she was ever even a serious adventurer. So in short, Jason, very impressive, but is not in the multi-ton range levels of impressive. I gotta give it to Lara. In both of these categories, Lara Croft scores a point. It's honestly hard to disagree. While Jason does have some feats like repeatedly dodging knife strikes and dodging out of the way of a moving van, he just doesn't have the natural agility of Lara Croft, who, given that she can react to lightning, would easily speed blitz Jason here. Intelligence is another area I have to wholeheartedly agree with AxMania on. Jason is good at setting traps, as he did manage to position bodies in such a way that it herded one of his victims, namely Trish, into exactly the place he wanted her to be, which was rather impressive. But next to Lara Croft, such tricks would be every other Tuesday, as she has dealt with far worse. She is also extremely learned and has a knack for figuring out age-old mysteries far faster than decades or centuries of previous archaeologists had managed. And unlike Jason, who typically deals with dumb teenagers, Lara most often deals with trained professionals and geniuses, so this just isn't a fair comparison. Weapons are interesting, as AxMania seems to be going off not just the weapons themselves, but how each combatant has the ability to deal with each other's weapons. He points out that gunfire is not very effective against Jason in the Friday the 13th movies, which, point taken. But what I feel AxMania failed to realize was just what their weapons accomplished. Jason really just hacks through more or less standard humans. Meanwhile, Lara's weapons have killed or harmed dinosaurs, dragons, ghosts, the Atlantean torso, and our good friend Natla, who, in not one, but 2 games, shrugged off being at the center of a nuclear detonation, but is still put down by Lara Croft. On the matter of who has better weapons, it just has to go to Lara. If this was sheer durability, then between being able to tank attacks from the aforementioned nuke tanking Natla, as typically you can dish out what you can tank and vice versa, as well as fighting off and taking hits from a partially godified Dr. Dominguez, who, remember, would have rewrote all of reality, is individually more impressive than anything Jason has ever done. However, this also includes resilience. Don't get me wrong, Lara is resilient. Everything in the server games just loves to beat her up. But I have to admit, Jason simply never dies and has a far higher pain tolerance than Lara ever had. And given that AxMania doesn't give out ties, in theory, Jason should win any battle of attrition here, so I too will give the round to Jason. There isn't anything that I disagree with AxMania on this regard. Jason doesn't really have a good motivation by the later Friday the 13th movies, and Lara Croft is certainly not one of his typical targets. Meanwhile, Lara Croft's one consistent character trait between all her versions is her sheer drive to accomplish her goals, be they collect new artifacts or to simply survive. Experience is the same, and I applaud AxMania for finally noting Jason's victims were almost entirely made of fodder, normal humans who don't even fight back half the time, whilst Lara is almost always fighting highly skilled individuals. Hell, between Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Lara Croft single-handedly exterminated Trinity off the face of the earth, a paramilitary organization, by herself. She's more of a mass murderer than most fictional mass murderers, which is funny to think about. For AxMania, Lara Croft won 4 rounds to Jason's 3. For the Lore Raider, I say Lara won 6 rounds to Jason's 1. While the outcome is the same, it also really isn't. In truth, I understated a lot of Lara's best feats, but really this wouldn't really be much of a fight. With 2 tallies being the difference between a fair and interesting match on AxMania's side and a completely one-sided stomp in my opinion. But whilst I think AxMania underrated Lara here, that doesn't change that his video was extremely well made, and I encourage anyone and everyone to give him a watch. Like I said, I'm a big personal fan. I have nothing but respect for AxMania, and of course I cannot give him a hard time as he's not really a scaler by trade, and this was all for fun. At the end of the day, Lara Croft fans are the real winners here. But that's all I have to say. You know how I leave you. As always, be wise, be safe, and please pray for a true peace in space. Take care.